I'd like everyone in the audience to close their eyes. Take a deep breath and relax. And think about the word government. Okay, you can open your eyes. My guess is you didn't get a warm and fuzzy feeling. We're living in a time of unprecedented and dangerous mistrust between Americans and their government. This is a serious problem for everyone, and truly, throughout our country. I'm going to explain how we got here and how we start to regain that trust. But first, a little bit more about the problem. According to a 2017 survey from the Pew Research Foundation, only 20% of Americans trust the government in Washington to do what is right most of the time. And 74% believe elected officials put their own personal interests ahead of the country's. When you ask people about their state and local governments, you get better numbers, but they're still not great. According to a Gallup study last fall, only 6 in 10 Americans say state government has the capacity to handle their problems, and just slightly less, 7 in 10, trust local governments. These numbers may be better than Washington's, but they tell us that too many people are disengaged, disillusioned, disgusted, or disinterested in the decisions that affect all of their lives. Anytime you see a trend line like this, you hope it's about costs or taxes. Otherwise, you have a big problem. And it wasn't always this way. The presidents of the 50s and the 60s fanned the flames of my own personal love of public service, as they did for so many people. When President Eisenhower and President Kennedy were in office, with them, the best and the brightest often joined them. And the country felt that service and joining government was a calling where you could do the most good for the greatest number of people. So I did everything I could to follow that calling. I majored in political science and economics. I went to graduate school in Washington, D.C. I went into government service as a White House intern, and then I joined the New York City Budget Office. I was inspired to follow this path, even if it meant making a fraction of the salary I could have made in the private sector, like my friend who went to one of Madison Avenue's premier advertising agencies. So while I was out crunching numbers and working on tough issues, she was writing jingles for Hawaiian Punch. So you can imagine what it was like for me to go with her to a party when people talked about their jobs. They wanted to hear about her ad jingles and her fancy office on Madison Avenue. And they thought what I did wasn't prestigious because of this.
Fruit juicy. Hey, how about a nice Hawaiian punch?
Sure.
You taste 7 kinds of fruit in Hawaiian punch. 7 kinds of fruit in Hawaiian punch.
Hawaiian Punch Fruit Punch with 10% fruit juice for a real fruit juicy taste.
Hawaiian punch is made with 7 kinds of fruit.
For a one of a kind, one of a kind, one of a kind fruit taste.
Now, my timing wasn't the best. My friend was working on Madison Avenue during the golden age of advertising, and while public trust in government peaked in the Kennedy era, which is what inspired me, by the time I arrived, that trust was beginning to fall. National Watergate scandal, and at the local level for me in New York City, New York was facing bankruptcy after years of fiscal mismanagement. Here's one of the most famous newspaper front pages in New York City history, which sums up how everyone from our federal government to our neighbors down the street had lost faith in the city's ability to function. And that brings us back to today, where 20% of the people who trust government in Washington to do what is right all of the time. I think there are 2 main reasons. why we are in the place we are. And the good news is we can do something about both. First, there's a huge flaw in the system where we operate basically as a monopoly. Without competition, no one has the incentive to be innovative and responsive. That means the government often doesn't think of itself as a service provider the way many businesses do, and we need to think more this way. Now, government doesn't have the funding and the flexibility of the private sector either. We can't get an angel investor, an IPO, to finance a promising new service, but that's a different talk for a different time. Second, people aren't interacting with their government or the way they used to. Harvard professor Robert Putnam tracked some discouraging numbers in how we interrelate. In the last 25 years, Americans have seen a 58% drop in people attending meetings, a 43% drop in family dinners, and a 35% drop in simply having friends over. We increasingly spend more time with our screens. First TV, then smartphones, instead of being with each other. And this matters because engaged communities provide the feedback that government can use to do its job well. And that cycle of lost trust and discouragement is continuing to spiral. Let's look at the first issue, and I think back to my Madison Avenue friend for a second. She wouldn't be writing those jingles anymore. Businesses have adapted to continue to meet customer demands, and advertising now tries to reach people at a more personalized level. That allows for instantaneous feedback from its customers. My friend would be doing a social media strategy, letting Hawaiian Punch reach a target audience who could then get the attention of the company's senior leaders. The ad industry has changed, however, government hasn't adapted in the same pace. This is true across our economy. Customer ratings are embedded in almost every purchase that we make online, and the expectation for immediate customer service continues to grow, and rightfully so. Now, I know what you're thinking when it comes to government service, but it's not that the people who work in government don't care. In fact, it's just the opposite. They are highly mission-oriented. Data from the Journal of Public Administration and Research Theory shows that government workers are especially drawn to the mission of the organizations that they work for, even more so than their colleagues in the private sector. So how do we get government better connected to its customers, much as the business sector has done? After 40 years of working in both the public and the private sectors, I found the only way that you can do this is by changing the culture of the organization, by making a deeper connection to the employee's sense of purpose and the people that they serve. You need clear goals to prioritize improving customer service, but this must come with the right tools, the right training to allow people to achieve those goals. Too often, government leaders set lofty goals, maybe to get reelected, but don't do the hard work in the background to make those things actually happen. As a lieutenant governor in Colorado, I also serve as the state's chief operating officer, a role that's common in the business world, but not so much in government. And I spend a lot of my time on the work that's in the background. It isn't glamorous, but it helps our departments better understand how to serve our customers. This starts out by clearly communicating that customer service is central to who we are, and what we do. Let me tell you about our specific efforts. We've established a program of Governor's Fellows to recruit private sector leaders into key government roles, which helps us bring the best in customer-oriented thinking into government. Our fellows spend their time learning what it's like to be in government and then work directly with the governor, with me and our senior team on developing solutions to the challenges of running our state. Our goal is to create a nonpartisan pipeline of leaders, and our initial results are encouraging. One fellow has joined our state as an executive director of one of our largest cabinet agencies, the Department of Revenue, and another has joined one of our numerous boards and commissions. Those people are managing or overseeing billions of dollars that are critical to our state economy. We've also helped our existing employees by providing training in lean process improvement practices, the same practices that Toyota used to lower costs and improve the safety and performance of their vehicles. We've trained over 3,000 employees, and lean is transforming our work. For example, it used to take 114 days for a pharmacist to get licensed to practice. We're now down to 18. We've established an academy that trains our top leaders on how to create and implement a high-quality strategic plan with a focus on our customers. Our people have appreciated the help. Our last 3 academy classes have given the program a 95% plus net promoter score. We're embracing data and analytics to track our work and to stay accountable to actual quantitative goals, as in the business world. Our Colorado governor's dashboard lays out key priorities, and we're delivering on them for our customers. And we're pushing the boundaries of our regular work, thinking outside the box by putting more government services online, leveraging the latest research in behavioral economics, and launching a customer service initiative to help some of our biggest programs become more customer friendly. We just recently had our 1 millionth license renewed online through a simple online form. I'm proud of everything that we do to connect people and reestablish trust between Coloradans and their government. And this brings me back to the second challenge, where we see people disengaging from their communities and feeling more disconnected from government. And that's where all of you come in. There are countless ways you can get more involved in your community or in your government. And each one of you will help heal the trust gap just a little, and also provide one more chance for government to get feedback from you and then serve you better. Here are some ideas. Join the PTA, pick a cause, donate money, volunteer, support a ballot initiative, fill out your customer feedback form at the Department of Motor Vehicles or government office. We really read these. Send a letter to your elected official about something you liked or a problem you saw. Spend a few years actually working in government and picking up new skills. Basically, stop thinking that government, politics, and civil service is simply something you watch on TV or complain to your neighbor about. Adopt this rule. If you care enough to tell your friend how something should be done better, then care enough to take constructive action. It might only take 10 minutes of your time. Let's try this one more time. Close your eyes. Think about what you can do. You can open them. Think about what it would mean to help solve a problem, whether it is big or small. Now, that solution can improve the lives of many people, people you don't even know. That can happen. Each one of you have the power to make that difference. Thank you very much.